Welcome back to the Deep Digger Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host right over there.
What's up? It's Dee. Good to see you again. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Drop some comments below. Let us know your thoughts.
Today we are doing a quick preview of the SEC for this upcoming football season. We already did the Big Ten, so if you want to check that out, it's on our YouTube. Let's dig right into the SEC. So right off the bat, we're going to start in the negative. We're going to work our way to the positive. Who will be the most disappointing team in the SEC for you this season?
I actually had a couple of contenders here, but ultimately my most disappointing team this year in the SEC is going to be South Carolina. The South Carolina Gamecocks, and I know this is something that you were like, what are you talking about? But they lost a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I get that Lenore Sellers had an amazing season, an amazing run towards the end of last season. This team really felt like it was hot. Ultimately, like, the hype for South Carolina is just, they've really outkicked their coverage here. I think the Gamecocks are not going to be as good as last year. I don't think they're going to have as big of wins as they had last year. And I think realistically, this is a team that, I mean, ultimately they had a lot of buzz towards the end of last year, but at no point were they actually ever in contention. I don't think they ever had a shot in the dark as far as getting into the playoff. And so I just don't think that what they did at the end of last year is going to translate over to this year. There's just not as much talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think Lenore Sellers is still going to have an amazing season. I think he's up there as far as players to watch in this conference, but I just don't think that this is going to be a good South Carolina team. I think they're going to let a lot of their preseason hype down.
I mean, I've already been arguing this with you on here, so I'm not going to get all the way into it.
Go ahead.
I'm really high on South Carolina this year. I think Lenore Sellers, to me, could be a Heisman candidate. I do understand that they lost a lot of players, but there's some really interesting prospects on that defensive line. I think they have an explosive passing game and run game with Lenore Sellers. They really were putting up a lot of splash plays last year, so I think if they can find their ground being a little bit more consistent, not just try to get the big play every time, they will be a lot better offensively, and especially with Lenore Sellers another year under his belt. But to say that they weren't in contention at all last season when they were screwed by the refs by LSU, and if that didn't happen, they probably would have been in the college football playoff, is crazy to me. They were a couple, maybe 2 plays away from being in the playoffs.
Okay, but they lost that game. And then after that, they went on this run. And at no point were they going to get back into it. At no point were they ever going to get back to the playoff. That was not going to happen. That was not in their cards. And everyone was lying to them and saying, if you just win out, you can make it. No, it was not going to happen. They already had too many losses on their record. At no point was it ever going to be a thing.
All right, well, my most disappointing team this year is actually a team that you are really high on, and that's going to be Texas A&M. I just don't see how in a conference where a lot of these top teams are still going to be at the top, a lot of these other teams are going to be better this year. LSU is going to be better. Florida is going to be better. Texas A&M weren't even invested in Marcel Reed enough last season to commit to him, and now this season you're expecting this like crazy breakout year where he's going to dominate the SEC. I just don't see it with Texas A&M. And I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but I don't think they're going to be in the top half of the SEC by the end of the year.
This is a team that was actually in contention. They did have. How
are you going to say they were in contention and not South Carolina?
It came down to the last game of the season for them. If they would have beat Texas, they would have went into the college football playoff. They would have done it. So I don't know.
Well, if they would just beat the best team
at the end of the season. The Gamecock season was already over when they lost. Like, I don't see them going on this run. They already had 3 losses on their schedule. You know what they should have done? They should have taken care of business way before then.
They got screwed by LSU.
They lost 2 other games.
And then they would have been a 2-loss SEC team that would have got them in the playoff.
They shouldn't have lost before then. I don't get they were not in contention.
All right,
there were 3 lost teams.
We're going to agree to disagree on the A&M South Carolina of it all. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe in South Carolina, or do you believe in Texas A&M, or do you believe in neither? But we have to move on.
Okay.
Let's talk about your most surprising team of the season.
I am so excited, and this is a team that is, I mean, realistically, they had a lot of buzz going into last season. I think they somewhat underachieved. I'm going to go with my most surprising team Missouri. Give me the Missouri Tigers, baby. I am so pumped for Missouri this year. I would bet the farm on Missouri being a playoff contending team. I mean, I love what they did. Eli Drinkowitz is a good SEC head coach. Drinkwitz, listen to this. So they last year they underachieved. Let's be real. They did underachieve. Their two best players on offense didn't really perform up to it. This year, I feel like they have a lot of good transfer students. They got Bo Prabula out of Penn State, a dual threat quarterback who everyone was really excited about, who was seeing snaps at Penn State, even though they have what some think is the most NFL ready quarterback of this upcoming draft, and he was still seeing the field. That's how talented this guy was. Then on the defensive side, they went out and got transfer students and dogs at every single level of this defense. They go out and get Jalen Catalon, the safety from UNLV. They got Josiah Trotter, a linebacker from West Virginia. They went out and got Damon Wilson, an edge rusher from Georgia. And this is after last year. Drinkwitz just has something in his bag where he can get big edge rushers from Georgia because they just got one last season. So lining up on the other side, you're going to have Darius Smith. He injured his knee last year, but he is 6'5", 252 pounds to pair with Wilson, who is 6'4", 294. Or 249. That's crazy. I think that this Missouri team has a good pull as far as schedule. I don't think that it's hard considering it's the SEC. I think that they're going to have a solid team overall, and I think that they're going to be pretty explosive on offense. Give me Missouri. I think they're making playoffs.
Yeah, and I really wanted to go Missouri too here, but I knew you were going to go Missouri, so I'm going a little bit different, which this team, I don't think it's going to be surprising if they're good again. But I think they're actually getting a little bit overlooked because of the other teams at the top of the SEC. But give me Tennessee. I think they're going to come back. Rob Hubel, another season under him. They lost Nico Iamalava, but they bring in Joey Aguilar. They really did well last year with a running back by committee. I really expect them to carry that into this season. It's Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop. I hope they can step up, and I trust this Tennessee system to develop more running backs. When you look at how well they performed last year, and you look at the play at quarterback with Nico, he really wasn't that great or really that special to get them to that many wins. So if Joey Aguilar can be as good as that, if not better, I think they could actually improve off their record from last season.
I feel pretty good with that. I think, yeah, Joey Aguilar is a guy who did have pretty good production at App State. I think that it's tough considering kind of how late in the game they did have that transfer. And so it does kind of, okay, how quickly are they going to be able to get up to speed with this guy? That's kind of tough, but I think that they're going to have an awesome defense again this year. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Well, and if there's a team in the SEC where you're like, okay, let's bring in we got to scramble to find a quarterback and not stress too much about it, I would feel comfortable with Tennessee, where we're going to run the ball, we're going to play defense, we have some playmakers at wide receiver. Let's just get someone in here to try to run our system and be caught up to the speed by the end of the season. So, yeah,
the only thing
Nico wasn't a world beater last year, so if they could get consistent quarterback play here, I feel good about them.
The only thing with that is they are going to have a pretty quick go of it. They are going to need to come together pretty quick. They got Syracuse week 1. That's not a slouch game. That's not a pushover game. It's Eastern Tennessee week 2, which, all right, yeah, that's a pushover game. Then they have Georgia coming in week 3. I think you're going to have learning curves. You're going to see what you really have in Joey Aguilar really, really soon. But because things are going to be early on, and then you're going to have kind of a coast to like a couple of wins with Mississippi State, UAB, even Arkansas, I think they could beat. I think then they can kind of figure it out from there. I think it's going to be a pretty good litmus test as far as, hey, where are we in the season really early on?
Yeah, in a season where they're getting no buzz because all the other teams at the top of the SEC, so they can kind of fly under the radar and build up their resume. And by the end of the year, you look back at them and you're like, oh, actually, they just lost to Georgia, and they just had. So I think you feel really good about them potentially snatching one of those bottom playoff spots at the end of the day. Let's talk about which team has the most pressure going into this season. I have to go with Alabama here. I think Kalen DeBoer, This Alabama team, everyone is basically talking about them like they're garbage because they're not as dominant as the Nick Saban era. And it's crazy. He's actually been competitive. They've been near the top, but this needs to be a season where they reestablish themselves and they get it, at least try to get to the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a race against irrelevancy as the most pressure as well on this season. I think, yeah, those whispers are becoming screams very, very loud and clear. And I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, but it's so hard to please the Alabama fan base. And how quickly does it turn from Alabama is the school everyone wants to go to now it's like, okay, realistically, if we kind of didn't have this category, I don't know how much we're really talking about Alabama football this upcoming season. I mean, they got a guy in there that's been there at the program for quite a while, but he couldn't beat a guy that in Jalen Milroe, many people and many Alabama fans felt like, okay, well, he's not really that great of a quarterback. If Ty Simpson couldn't beat him out then, what makes you think Ty Simpson's going to take them over what they did last year? So you have that factor. You have the booster factor. You have the Nick Saban factor. Is he coming back next year? If so, should we be available for that? You have the fact that the conference is we only have top dogs here. So if we're not getting better, we're getting worse. So I think that's huge. I think they have a ton of pressure going into the season. And Kalen DeBoer already had glimpses of losing the locker room. It was pretty crazy to see. So yeah, I think just even from the inside, I think that it's a pressure cooker there.
Yeah, they have to make a statement. They have to try to put their name back at the top of the mountain, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do it. Let's move on to who we think could be the worst team in the conference. I'm going to go and lead this off, and I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. And I know they're bringing back their, veteran quarterback who's played a lot of football in Diego Pavia, but it's a team to me that went 6-6 last season, and everyone kind of felt like they were world beaters and they were at the top of the mountain and praising them for a great season when at the end of the day, yes, they beat Bama. They were in a close one against Texas, but they just didn't get enough wins for me, and I feel like they have a high chance of falling off this season. So looking at their schedule, they play a South Carolina, they play Bama, they play LSU, they play Missouri, they play Texas, Auburn, Tennessee. Like the middle of their schedule, they could have a stretch where they lose 5 games in a row.
I get that. But also, I don't think they're going to be the worst team. I think that just based off quarterback play, they're always going to have a shot in every single game. Like, don't foresee them being the worst by a country mile, realistically. For me, it came down to 2 teams. It was, for me, in my mind, going to be Mississippi State. Mississippi State was just horrible last year. I think that you could have, been like, okay, they lost to who they got. They got beat by a non-conference school very early. Toledo beat them. And guess what? My worst team in the SEC is going to be playing Toledo. It is Kentucky. And people are already saying Toledo might beat Kentucky. Kentucky only had 1 SEC win last year against Ole Miss, which goes to show you how badly they fumbled that one. Kentucky's bad. I just don't foresee them getting any better. I think they got a lot worse this offseason. I think Kentucky's going to be at the bottom of the barrel. The only reason I didn't choose Mississippi State is because they had it's pretty much an entirely new roster. They had 43 mid-year transfers, and since January, they've had 16 more transfers, so it is a brand new team for Mississippi State. I could say that last year, they stunk. This year is a huge question mark. Kentucky stunk, and I think they're going to continue to stink.
All right, well, let's talk about some individual players. Who is your breakout SEC player this year?
My breakout player, again, I went with a guy that hasn't really proven a whole lot, but I think he's really primed for a breakout season. That is Amaris Williams, edge rusher, sophomore from Auburn. And Auburn's defense is going to be a strength. There's one of the strengths of their team, specifically on that defensive line. I think that they are going to be some dogs. I think that they're going to be vastly improved this season. They have a pretty good secondary, but Amaris Williams was a guy who is 6'2", 260. He can run a 4.7 40. he was unhappy with his usage last year and actually entered the transfer portal, pulled out 2 days afterwards and was like, you know what? I am coming back to Auburn. This is the place for me. By all accounts, he's been having a monster training camp and the team has been saying nothing but great things about him. I think that you're going to see a very quick twitch, smart, athletic edge rusher. I think that he is going to cause some havoc in the backfield. I'm thinking he's going to have a breakout year this year.
Well, I guess we're both going Auburn here because I'm
Oh,
going with Auburn wide receiver Cam Coleman. At the end of the season last year, really broke out in those last 3 weeks. I think the addition of Jackson Arnold, I know Oklahoma was not really great for him, but he has a lot more weapons and a better squad around him at Auburn this season, I believe. And I think Cam Coleman, he's huge. He can do everything, and I think he's going to be really one of the standouts in the SEC this season.
And I think the addition of Jackson Arnold is a pretty big one. I think Oklahoma did him dirty. I mean, realistically, Oklahoma, I did not like the way that they handled that situation. They basically blamed him and outright was like, okay, this is all on him. We're going to move on to the next guy, and burned a year of eligibility for him. It was kind of ridiculous. So I'm glad he's out of that situation. We'll see if Oklahoma handles John Mateer a little bit better. But I like the bounce back. Do I like the price tag that allegedly they're paying him? No, but I understand why you have to do it if you are Auburn, who struggled over the last couple of years.
All right, your SEC player of the year, go for it.
My SEC player of the year. I really struggled with this one. I really did, because I've gotten on this bus before and he's let me down. But you know what? I fully believe on this team. I believe it. They're 4 deep in wide receivers that could start pretty much anywhere in the entire country. Give me Garrett Nussmeier, baby. I think he's
I did not think. I thought you were about to say Marcel Reed.
Oh, no.
I was like, get out. This show's over.
No, I was on the Nussmeier train for a little bit. He let me down hardcore, but I think he's going to have an amazing year. I think the wide receiving core at LSU is just going to be lights out. I think that he is going to have marquee matchups to really showcase his ability. I think not only he wins the SEC Player of the Year, I think he's winning the Heisman.
Interesting. For my pick, I could have went a lot of different ways. I'm really big on these mobile young quarterbacks this season with DJ Lagway, Lenora Sellers. But why are we not going to go all in on a quarterback who is 3rd generation, who is 21 years in the making? This full season has been plotted on, and all the planning, the coach selection, him sitting behind Quinn Ewers for years now, learning the craft. Give me Arch Manning to have a huge season and be the SEC Player of the Year and a Heisman candidate. It's just been, if you look at all the facts of what they've done to prepare this kid, he has to go out there and ball.
Yeah, I mean, I will give you that. And then he is going to have the namesake backing him. He is going to have a big hype train and a big showcase really right off the bat in week 1. But so is Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier is going to be going, I think, they're going to be hosting Clemson this year, and that is going to be also basically a Heisman showdown between him and Cade Klubnik. I understand the want for Arch Manning, but also I've seen Garrett Nussmeier, blow my socks off. I've seen him do that before. I haven't really seen that from Arch Manning. A lot of this is just projection, and I get where you're coming from. But we're projecting. We're really throwing a lot on this kid.
I've seen Garrett Nussmeier disappoint us also.
I've seen it. But also, you take those licks, and I think Arch is going to have. He's going to have some ups. He's going to have some down.
Arch is playing on the best team in the conference.
I just think it's a lot of pressure for a guy starting his first year starting.
We'll see. Do you have your pick for the teams that will make the championship game and possibly a winner?
I went back and forth. I know that the top of the SEC this year, there's like 3 or 4 teams that you could say are really competing. And they really kind of were interchangeable for me. And I'm like, but I fully believe in LSU this year. I'm going to go ahead and put LSU. And then this one, I kept crossing it out and then adding it back in. I have Georgia crossed out twice. I doubled out. I was like, no, but I have to believe Texas they're just so deep on defense. The one concern that I have with Texas is the fact that in the first game against Georgia, That first half was so incredibly bad. And people were like, oh, what? Like when I said that they got their butts kicked, people were like, what are you talking about? Look at the score. No, like it was pretty bad. Sark was such a good coach, and he was such like he's 3D level chess as far as what he was looking for. He saw that Quinn Ewers was struggling so bad that he put in Arch, and Arch got his stuff ran. And he was like, okay, just to be like, hey, no matter who we play at quarterback, it's going to be a bloodbath. Our offensive line cannot keep up with Georgia's defensive line. That's the one thing. If they can shore that up this season, then yeah, they are going to be in this title game. So I was a little bit hesitant about it. I wanted to put Georgia, but Texas is too deep. Texas's defense is going to be nasty. They are like 15, 16 starters deep. I think that Arch Manning is going to be good. I think it's a lot of pressure to say that he is going to be a Heisman candidate, that he's going to be the player of the year, but I think he's going to be good. I think the weapons on offense are going to be really good. Give me Texas, give me LSU, and I think LSU wins. I think I'm all in on the go Tigers.
How many times does Brian Kelly have to break your heart? How many times
one more
coaching decisions late in games does he have to do to break your heart?
One more, baby. I'm all in. Go Tigers.
Watching you watch him last year was a tough watch.
But when LSU loads up, they really load up. And this year, the wide receivers are going to be nasty. Garrett Yussmeyer is going to have another year under his belt. I think that it's going to be an electric offense. I think the defense is going to be vastly improved. I think they're stacked from top to bottom. Give me the LSU Tigers.